This video is on how to get your employment file in California. So I'm an attorney in Los Angeles. I help people with wrongful termination cases. And one thing that I see often is that there's a dispute, obviously, between an employee and an employer about what's going on during their employment. And sometimes an employer will let someone go for an improper reason. It could be based on an injury, like a disability, and they don't want to deal with the person anymore. I've had cases where someone was on pregnancy leave and then they get terminated, or it could be based on race or some other improper reason. One of the first steps is to get that employment file. And in California, an employee is permitted to get a copy of their employment file. The first thing you want to do is email the HR department. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You can just email the HR department and say, I want a copy of my entire personnel file. You could also be very specific and ask for things like, I wanted to make sure it includes my attendance record, and I want it to include like payroll information. They are obligated to give you things that would pertain to when they first hired you, like your application for your employment, any sort of records regarding your attendance. They would also give information about your performance reviews. If they don't give you that information, they're in violation of the law. So if you request this information and they won't give it to you, you can complain to the labor commissioner, and there's even a penalty to the employer for not providing that information. But it's really important, particularly if you feel like they've made up some reasons why they're terminating you and it's not actually true. It's also important a lot of times to get these records in employment cases or wage and hour cases if you believe that you're not being paid properly for things like your breaks or your time that you're at work or overtime and things like that. Once you get that file, you can provide it to an attorney if you have ongoing questions about it. So if you have a case where you have some questions about your wrongful termination and you have those records, and you can send it to my office, for example, we would have a free consultation to discuss it. But it's very important to reach out, request those documents, and do it in writing, because you know how it is, always people will dispute that they ever got a request or they'll deny it. So if you just call them and say, hey, I want a copy of my file, sometimes that phone call, it's like it never happened, and you really want to request it in writing. Same thing with anything that you're given as a result of the termination. So if they fire you and they give you a termination letter, keep that termination letter, make a copy of it, because that's also going to be important. If you have questions about your wrongful termination, feel free to reach out to my office, howelljust.com. We'll have a free consultation. We'll talk about your case and your options. Thanks.